Till Ayan reaches, hello, people. Till Ayan reaches, I'll settle my scores with Karan. Karan, since I gave a positive review, the world accused me of having taken a bribe from you. You know, now that the film has done well, I'm waiting for the check.
That's a great looking suit, Komal. Who gave it to you?
I can show you when it was tailored much before the release of Brahmāstra. It's a different thing that I've worn it for the first time today.
Well, Komal, I know, of course, all this is in jest, and I hope people take it in the right way. There was obviously no money exchanged, but it was really quite amusing. I mean, not amusing, it was also hurtful at that time, where so many people were writing all kinds of things, but justifiably some and some perhaps not. But the thing is, many people said we were fudging the numbers, and I was like, we weren't even giving out the box office numbers, so how are you fudging anything? It was quite, and that's something that now in these days of data tracking, and Komal will know that better than anyone else, that what the numbers are obvious for everyone to see. You get them from the 3 multiplex chains and the other chains. There's so much data available. Everybody knows the numbers of a film these days. So it's almost impossible to fudge them and leave alone maneuver or manipulate them.
You know, I was on a channel, Karan, I'm sure you mustn't have seen it because you had plenty of other things to do besides counting the cash which was being collected at the box office. So someone asked me on a television channel, someone asked me post Brahmāstra, we also hear that Karan has been distributing tickets. I said, okay, I'll give you an example. I'll send you 50 tickets of Brahmāstra and I'll tell you it is for this show. I guarantee after 2 hours you'll say, Komal, I have distributed some 12, 15, 20 tickets, 30 tickets मैं वापस भेजता हूँ. And you're talking of 1 lakh or 2 lakh tickets. Do you know the infrastructure required to distribute those tickets? That will cost more than the tickets. So I don't think Karan is so foolish in commercial terms and in financial matters that he would buy the tickets of his own film and then put an infrastructure together to distribute those tickets, get people. I mean, whom do you distribute so many tickets to? So I said, why can't we just accept that people are going to watch the film, and why elude reasons for its success?
Thank you.
Can we begin?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Karan, now that the film has released, done well, the numbers have come in, is it a bigger relief to you now than it was when the film got completed?
Well, at first, I think I was just relieved that the film was finally releasing. It's been a journey, and Ayan will, of course, share that with you when he comes in. Actually, his film released, his last film before this released June 2013.
Wow.
And I remember after the film released and was a success, he took a long trip and he went, in fact, to the mountains. And he came back, and the germ of Brahmāstra was in a sense born then. When he came back and he said he wants to make this fantasy spectacle based in Indian mythology and also a fantasy film, which is his most favorite genre of film. And from then onwards, we've been hearing about the story of Brahmāstra. Finally, we went on the sets in, we were prepping for it from 2015, and we started shooting for it 2017. So it's been a really long journey. So when the film finally released on the 9th of September 2022, I felt it was an entire decade that had taken a full circle and finally come into cinema hall. So for us, it was like much more a labor of love and a product of passion than just a commercial outing. For us, it was so much more than anything that, and we're very grateful for the box office, we're very grateful for the love, we're grateful for the feedback, we know the strengths, we know the weaknesses, we've studied it all, but more than anything else, we're grateful that there were a strong bunch of people who really held through these 7 years. There are literally some people who have been from day one of Brahmāstra, and all 7 years have done nothing but Brahmāstra, of course led by Ayan.
Wow, and I think the passion is visible in every frame, in every single scene, in every single shot, because you have tried to create a whole new universe, you know, Karan. So when Ayan narrated the germ of the idea to you, were you daunted by the bigness, or at that time it didn't register that it was a whole new world that he's creating, a whole new universe that he was creating?
I mean, I had never made a film. We hadn't even ventured into Bahubali as presenters at that time. So, it was something that I couldn't imagine. I wasn't being able to fathom. I kept thinking we were completely stretching ourselves, and we were like incapable of pulling off this the film that he had in his mind. And actually, till I kept seeing the dailies of the film, I didn't even realize that this is the extent of what Ayan Mukerji had in his mind, because his mind was like the imagination of some kind of a very, very imaginative person. And I was like, I didn't even imagine the way he had the powers, the astras, the entire astraverse, everything that he had planned, and it was all in his head. And I was like, how are you going to put pen to paper and be able to kind of create this trilogy? Because Brahmāstra is not just about part 1 Shiv, it's about part 2 Shiva, part 2 Dev, and then part 3, which we can't reveal right now. There's so much that we had to put into part 1 for it to all add up, and then make 2 and 3 into pleasurable experiences. Therefore, there were so many screenplay hurdles to surmount, so many story aspects to kind of put out in film 1. It was really impossible when he mentioned it to me that all this was going to happen. Like, I don't even know. Today the film is released and it's with the audiences now, but I'm still a bit overwhelmed by the entire journey.
I'm sure. I'm not a bit surprised. You know, I remember meeting Ayan in your building. Yeah, right. I had come to meet you. After that, I was leaving, and he was in the compound, and he said, you know, Komal, I'm thinking of making this kind of a film. I wish I could narrate the subject to you, but I don't know. I would like to. So in my eagerness to hear the script, I said, but Karan always gives me an idea of what he's making, so why will Karan stop you? Okay, then let me talk to him. And then he disappeared.
Right.
He got busy in the making of Brahmāstra,
yeah,
I think.
He took very long and got busy and went through a lot. Like, I always say it's very admirable, because after Jawani Diwani, it was very easy for him to make another fast commercial film, even monetarily for him. I mean, in every which way, in terms of, you know, churning out more films, making the money himself, probably going up, moving stratas for himself as a filmmaker. He didn't do any of that. He just sat, like where he is at 7 years ago economically is where he's at today. The needle hasn't moved, but the ambition, the passion, I think surmounts all of that. And it makes you feel like when we tell stories or we are content creators, it's really not eventual. Of course, we are here for the business and the commercial aspect, but the passion to me is far more important than anything else. And he has more passion than I've seen in anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. This is where passion versus profit, when we talk of, his passion is what has driven the film, rather than his vision about the profitability or the expenditure, etc.
Having said that, we're very, very grateful to Disney because their money muscle was very required for them to be on the same page with us in terms of to see the Disney, you know, got into the film from the very beginning, and we've had a lot of strength, and I would say their infrastructure was in Brahmāstra. As a result of that is why we could take those leaps that we did in terms of visual effects, in terms of just doing things that we had never done before in Indian cinema. So yeah, so I'm very grateful to Disney actually and the entire team who's really stood with us right through this journey.
You know, Karan, you have worked with Ayan, so it was easy for you to see where he was coming from, and probably you immediately got excited like him and said, yes, let's make this well. How difficult was it convincing Disney, or how many rounds of discussions you all had, or what were the points you had to stress upon so that you got they came on board with you?
It was the way Ayan pitched that narration with the team at Disney. It was really the way he sat on the floor for 2.5 hours and just narrated the vision to the entire corporate structure of Disney at that time. And I don't think they had experienced something like that. With his laptop open, and Ayan's narrations are always very theatrical. You know, he's very, very theatrical in his narration. So it was the way he pitched it. I think everyone was sold at his vision in that moment, because I think Ayan, and I have to say it's one of his strengths, and I can't wait for him to get here because I feel like I'm some, you know, some proxy for Ayan Mukerji.
No, it can't be a proxy. You're the producer of the film. So
no,
I think
but more than anything else, it's really his baby. And I feel like Ayan can sell, he can sell ice cream to an Eskimo. Yeah, he has that kind of, I think he has that ability, in his very humble, passionate self, I think he can really manage to move mountains. So I think that's what he did. At that point of time, it was amazing how they just came on board for such a massive, massive mammoth film. You know, and they also said this is not just about part one, it's about a trilogy.
Okay, they understood that.
Yes, yes, they understood that obviously that the money is going into a 3-film you know, universe. And also it's not just about the 3 films. The Astraverse is about many, many, many other films as well. Within the film, you know, we've already shown you there's of course the Nagastra, there's Vanarastra, Jalastra, there are so many. Each Astra can be a massive movie and a franchise in itself. So can you imagine what this one film can really do if we hit all the right, make the right moves in the future? It's actually really a creation of a marvelous universe.
Exactly. So like Marvel in Hollywood. But tell me, I didn't understand the if. It's a very tiny word, but you said if. Why that if?
If we get it, because one can never talk about creativity with assurance. Right now we can only say that the desire is to really push the envelope, the boundaries with each film. With the second film, the learnings we have from the audience reaction of part 1 will all go into part 2 and then part 3 and then the Astraverse. All these learnings are very critical. We were doing something that was completely novel and new. And when we got the feedback, the good and the bad, we took it all with a lot of strength and positivity, only because we knew that the process of learning in a film like this is never ending. It's endless. And we learned so much from the audience. We read every review. We read all the audience feedback on social media from audiences directly. So Ayan is somebody who's very academic and he's heard each and every person out. And now there are so many fan theories. It's amazing how some very clever things are being written by fans themselves. And I'm like, I think that's what even Disney and the Marvel Universe have done. They've actually incorporated screenplay points within their narrative from fans directly, because fans get attached to the narrative, have their own stories. There's so many questions about Alia's character Isha, about her presence in 2. I think he's here. Ayan Mukerji, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello,
I'm very sorry.
Not at all.
Okay, thank God. I was. Yeah, I'll give you the scolding later. Okay. Come.
No, guys, I don't think he needs to apologize. He had to live up to his film. If the film could be delayed by so many years, so many minutes is just nothing actually. So Ayan, it's all perfectly fine.
How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you, Ayan. I can't ask you how are you. You're on top of the world, we see that. So it must have taken time to land on earth.
No such thing, sir. No such thing.
Yeah, Karan, you know, we had already started the session, Ayan.
I think I spoke a fair amount without Ayan. I think you should pass all the questions from I was taking.
Ayan, we were just asking Karan how easy or how difficult it was to convince Disney, who came on board and funded the entire project. And in one sentence, he said, you sat on the floor and floored them.
Yeah, literally. Well, that's what he did. I said it was a 2.5 hour, 3 hour discourse that followed in a narration, and they bought into the vision of not just one but all the 3 films, and the vision that Ayan had for the Astraverse and Brahmāstra, the series.
Tell me, were you apprehensive when you took this idea to Karan and then to Disney? Because you were attempting something which nobody in India had attempted.
Yeah, you know my answer. Can I ask a question before I answer? How many of you have seen Brahmāstra? Oh, everybody. Wow, a lot of people have already seen it. Okay, wow. That's awesome. Okay. So Komal sir, to answer your question, I should have been perhaps more nervous, more apprehensive. This should have been my answer. But I think the overall what we were trying to create was so challenging, and I was also so drunk and inspired by the vision that I think some of these moments, the first time I met Karan with the story and he said, yes, let's move ahead with it. When we went and met the Disney team, I don't particularly remember being like more nervous or anything. You know, every single day on this journey has just been a bit like that. You know, every day has kind of been such a big obstacle that, yeah, this was one other obstacle. And eventually, like, you know, I guess the truth is that it wasn't as simple as Karan or even Disney saying yes in just one go. There were just obstacles and obstacles on a daily basis for years. You know, I feel even as we've put the film out, even now we have obstacles that we have to overcome to truly build part 2 and part 3 and the Astraverse. So that became second nature to this entire process.
You know, Karan has always been telling me, and he has been saying this in his interviews also, this film, a lot of sweat, blood and tears have gone. And the emphasis, more often than not, is on tears. All these three come in this order. I would like to know from Ayan and Karan, sweat, blood, one understands. Tears, what is this tears story?
I mean, I don't know a single person besides Ranbir, and happy birthday Ranbir, besides Ranbir, who on the major A team of the film that stood, that perhaps hasn't shed a few tears right through, sometimes out of exhaustion, sometimes out of stress, sometimes out of inability in the moment to combat the situation, sometimes out of just fatigue. I mean, you know, it's like there is so many reasons. I know Ayan has been emotionally vulnerable at so many junctures. I've seen it because to him I've always been like a protective parent. So every time I see him go through those beats, it's very difficult to see a team really weather those storms. And I know at this point the film is out and it all seems beautiful and rosy and we're all so grateful. But really, Komal, this wasn't just, it was really like climbing a cinematic Mount Everest, and right now it's like Ayan is standing on top of that mountain and really, you know, flying the Indian flag with aplomb.
I'm sure like, it is. But Ayan, one incident where you broke down.
Oh, one incident where I broke down.
Ayan.
Komal sir, so dramatic. Yeah. What do I say?
I've seen you break down, Ayan.
No, so I'll tell you one of the big challenges we had on the film. So we...
you can't skirt the question, huh? You say whatever you want to say, but you will have to give that incident where you broke down.
So, okay, my interpretation of this word broke down. I'm trying to find an incident that one should latch on to. So, what had happened on the film is that when we entered this journey, Hamari industry mein we work a certain way where we think script has happened, you're going to start making the film in 6 months, 7 months. This is par for the course. It's what you expect. So on Brahmāstra, we realized early on that this was not going to be possible. I needed to give 2, maybe 3 years just figuring out how to make this film and this very prolonged pre-production period. So I had done my best, you know, and I had taken on 2 years. We'd done a lot of research. We'd done a lot of visual effects planning. And I really thought that I was like some young Steven Spielberg, that I've cracked this and we're going to like fly from here. We shot our first schedule, which we started by shooting our climax, which was a very interesting thing that we did. We started the film with the climax. And I remember right after we shot that schedule, after all that pre-production, our VFX budget basically tripled right after we shot it, and now the film had begun.
So was that lack of planning or it just...
Sir, I don't think it was lack of planning.
The nature of the beast,
I think what it was that for all the partners involved, including the VFX teams at that point of time, it was just very new what we were attempting for Indian film.
So y'all couldn't have planned it?
They didn't know what they would run into. You know, and which is why when a lot of people are now setting off on big VFX, visual effects films, I see that that is something that could happen. You know, that they don't know what to expect. They don't know what's going to, there's no way to plan for it.
Sure.
So, in fact, I remember I called the head of Disney at that time, which was Mr. Uday Shankar, and Karan and all, I don't know if Karan remembers, we all flew down to London and we had already shot a big portion of the film and we didn't know if we would now have, how would we raise the rest of the funds to finish it. So those were very challenging days. You know, our little group that was trying to make the film, we also went through a lot of internal stress, but then we came back stronger, we took it on, we took on the budget again and we kept moving forward. And I feel like stuff like this happened on Brahmāstra every 2-3 months, basically.
Karan, did you cry?
Karan is a pro now. Karan is
but Karan is also very emotional, I know that.
But I'll tell you this, I've released so many films, Komal, and it's just been this particular film, I think, really affected me. So I even remember telling somebody, I said, you know, I'm very open to criticism. I love to hear what is wrong with the film. I'm academic about it. But just for 2-3 days, if you didn't like it, don't tell me. I said, just don't tell me. I'm too fragile and vulnerable. And I don't want to express it because I'm meant to be the senior leader of this pack. So if I show myself, and I remember we had a fan screening. It was on Thursday night, on the 8th night, and we had a fan screening. And the media watched it as well. And there was a couple of messages that were so wonderful to read, and a chat we had with you also that was very heartening. And then there were some messages that came in that were completely extreme, and I just felt like my blood pressure had dropped. You know, I just felt like, oh my God, what if we've gone completely wrong? And this is something I couldn't even share with Ayan or the team. It was just stress, because it was like stress as a parent to the film, you know, like I'm just stressed for all these kids who've given their life for the film. That night I didn't sleep a wink. I literally didn't sleep a wink. It wasn't that I was crying. It's just that I could feel like this is really a big deal. It is a new universe and there is going to be extreme reactions. But then the film, just like the process, really fought at the box office. It's really quite heartening to see how the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then the Monday may have lessened, then again it was back up on Wednesday, Thursday, then went up on Friday. The second Friday was higher than the Thursday, which is very rare. Then the weekend went up again. Then we had cinema day. Then it's just like literally the film was fighting, the audience was rooting. It was like I felt like just the journey, the eventuality was the same. The result was the same.
You know, Ayan, since you are so open to criticism like Karan, and you like to absorb what people are saying, have you tried to analyze how come for this film there was so much of negative reviews? Ultimately the box office counts, but you know, in those initial days, reviews do matter.
Sir, I'll be honest, I have not yet absorbed all the negative reviews. So when you say, oh, there was so many negative reviews, my feeling is that it was 50-50. You know, there was not, it's not like we got, like you gave us a very nice review, and there was a lot of support. And my approach to it has been,
I gave you positive reviews because Karan sent me promised me a check.
You know, you'll say these things in a joke and I'll be trolled for the remaining
It's a joke! It's a joke!
And I'm like, please don't troll me about this now. I'm done with receiving trolls for various other things.
Sorry.
So my approach, sir, has been that I am waiting still for a few more weeks to go and for Brahmāstra to really completely settle down. It was such a new beast in the jungle, such a new kind of film that, you know, oftentimes when you go to watch a film for the first time, as much as you are commenting on what's in the film, you're also commenting on what is not in the film, what you imagine to be in the film, what the film is missing, instead of just accepting it for what it is. So in general, my attitude is I am very open to criticism. I have heard stuff, you know, that the dialogues didn't really work as well. People weren't 100% convinced by the love story, this, that. So I'm hearing it, but I'm also waiting for enough time for the film to truly settle, to release on streaming, release on satellite, and then to really make sense of all my learning from what people have said, because I don't want to learn the wrong lessons. You know, if I take, like, very honestly, there's a lot of people writing about film and I'm happy to hear about it, but I don't know if they have a pulse on what is truly working and not working on a film. And I think you can go very wrong when you start over listening to everything as well. So I'm trying to make sure that the right feedback reaches me so I can learn from that for the future.
Is it possible, I'm just asking you and Karan both, Karan you can also answer, is it possible that you all concentrated very heavily on the visual effects because it was something unique? Indian cinema hadn't seen this kind of visual effects. So on purpose, intentionally, you all concentrated less on the script part and more on the visual appeal part?
So I think maybe it's possible that some of that happened just naturally.
Yes, that's what I mean.
It is possible, but truth be told, we worked very hard on the story and the script as well. And we were constantly working on actually improving the film right till the end. There were sequences that we had in the film which we didn't feel happy with, and we reshot a couple of, like, not VFX sequences, but story sequences. No, sir, I think we put our best foot forward on part one. I realize that there are a few departments in which people feel we could have done better, and we will do better.
Karan, you'd like to add?
Also, as I said, people were looking, and much of the, whenever the criticism came, I think it was looking at it as just a feature film, Brahmāstra. There are 3 films. So a lot of like the bits and pieces of this film that needed to be there, that all actually pay rich dividends in part 2. So, and part 3. So there had to be backstories. There had to be, the love story therefore had to be speedened. We were relying on chemistry. So in fact, there is a large section that believes, oh, the love story shouldn't have been there. But love stories is right at the end of the film, you realize that love is the biggest Brahmāstra to have.
What Amitabh says.
Yeah, it's right what Mr. Bachchan says. So there was so much of story, the backstory, everything had to be put in part 1. In any universe, the first film has a lot of putting in stuff for you to then cash in on that story-wise. I'm not saying that people are right or wrong in their assessment, but I feel that they were not looking at it holistically. They were looking at it very, very, very individualistically as just one film. And that's why all the learnings that he said he will of course, we will absorb and learn, because we are, I think, aware enough to understand that it's important to hear praise and criticism in equal measure. But there is a lot that was actually in the film because of the other 2 films. And that is something I don't think lots of people were kind of accounting for.
It's good you brought up this topic. So, how is it that you did not educate the public beforehand? Don't you think, on hindsight, don't you think you all should have actually put this out right before the release, that view it as part of a trilogy?
We did. We put it, but how much nobody ever... It's always been said. It's a trilogy. There are 3 parts. We've said it time and again. We've said it everywhere. But everyone chooses to, listen to what they want to. And there was a large section that was just stuck on why we've used the term love story in a song called Kesariya. So I was like, if that is what is really making them getting all wound up about, then I'm not sure how much of the real intricate elements of the film they're going to look at. And maybe they'll just take it as it comes.
Karan, this one is for you. Ayan is the director, but you are the producer. There are so many figures floating. I understand, and which is what I put out in the review also, whether it's 400 crore or 410 crore or 390 crore, the cost of the film. It cannot be expected that the entire cost is attributable to part 1. Because you'll have built assets, you'll have done a lot of spade work for part 2 and 3. Even the income tax office would allow a part of the cost to be amortized and transferred to parts 2 and 3. So to expect that the entire cost should be recovered for the film to be called a hit would be foolhardiness, But tell me, broad figures, what were you all looking at when the film came out in front of the public, and how much would you attribute to parts 2 and 3?
Firstly, the budget was never made for one part.
Exactly.
The budget is made for 3 parts. Brahmāstra is 3 films, not one film. It's part 1, part 2 and part 3. So the budget is it's not been broken down into film 1, film 2, film 3. It's for the entire trilogy. Secondly, we were just looking for the initial acceptance of this universe, which happened to us on day 1. We realized that we were home with the acceptance. A film to open in Hindi to open and other languages to cross the 35 crore mark
without a holiday and without a franchise.
Any holiday, that means that they had bought into the fact that this is a multiverse, a universe, and that's what we wanted, Komal, from this film. We were not looking at numbers and figures. We were looking, you accept this world because there's so much more, so much more to come. The moment this film gets acceptance, so whether it crosses 250, 300, all that is great, and we always are very, the numbers are very important. But to us, the most important is that we get to make part 2 and part 3. When we knew we were home with those important decisions for Brahmāstra, that's it. That is the biggest success, that we're making part 2. You only make part 2 when part 1 is loved and accepted, and that's what's happening in this film, is that there is so much curiosity for the Dev and Amrita story, for the Isha track, for Shiva, for everything. Like, there's so much, like, we're inundated with questions where we go, and that is what I think Ayan created this universe for, to kind of get that dialogue and conversation and all that energy behind the film going.
True. Ayan, scripts you write for every film. This film was different because it was rich in visual effects, and visual effects of the kind Hindi audiences had never seen, Indian audiences had never seen. How was that journey of creating visual effects for the film? And how involved were you with the studio which was creating it, with the studios which were creating it?
Sir, you know, so I want to give like 3-4 answers to what you've asked me.
Definitely.
So the one thing is that working in India, especially I believe, and trying to do anything of super high quality in any department, for some reason, more so in India, I feel one has to really be involved in every single department if you expect that quality. So I was very involved in VFX. Like it was, and it wasn't looked at only as a technical outside department. It was, matlab, years were going just in working on the visual effects. That's one. Now the second thing, sir, is that in this visual effects word, VFX, you know, you kind of say it and you think it's one sort of technical term that is one technical process that it represents. But actually, there are many stages in this visual effects process. And one big aspect of it is very connected with script writing and screenplay writing. Because, for example, in a moment where Shiva screams in the climax and this huge avatar of Shiva appears, fire avatar as we used to call it, that's not actually part of VFX, it's part of script writing. It's just visual script writing. And so, after we created the story of the film on paper, a long time went actually creating the visual script of the film. You know, and in a way writing the VFX of the film. So, I put screenplay writing, story and some of the VFX also into the same bracket of pre-production when we were devising the film. What I also wanted to add to that, sir, was that when we started off with this concept of Brahmāstra 1 and through it building this Astraverse concept, you mentioned earlier also that, you know, a lot of emphasis went on visual effects and, you know, maybe not enough on story. But the genre of the film was so new that when we began to just put this story together, this world of Astras that exists, now it still seems really simple. But because it was unlike any film that we had made before, and it was not based on any existing piece of literature like how the Marvel universe in Hollywood is based on 20, 30, 40 years of Marvel comics already having been written. We were actually setting out to do something that was inspired by lots of things, but was completely original in that sense.
A blank white paper.
So, that effort to just articulate this world, that these Astras exist in this nominal world, these are the different kind of Astras. There was a lot of emphasis that went into writing that stuff, and sometimes I feel like I know how much effort that took. You know, and that was a big part of the writing effort on this film as well, and I feel it needs, we don't realize how much credit should be given to that aspect of it, you know?
Yes, yes. Ayan, again from you, you know, if this film hadn't worked, for Karan it would be losses, for Disney it would have been losses. What would it have meant to you, having given a decade of your life? And as Karan said before you reached here, he said economically he is where he was 10 years back, you know. So what would it have meant for you had it not worked?
So it would have come with a lot of hardship and heartbreak. But you know, I am aspiring with every year that's going by to be, have a warrior artist mindset. You know, that's my goal to myself with every passing year, that I have to do the work really hard and not be just, you know, have an attitude where I don't want to say that, oh, my life would have been crushed and I would not. That's part of what we do here. You know, we do our best and we hope for the best, and then if it had not worked, I would have liked to believe that I would have picked myself up and tried to do something else. But what would have been really disappointing is that I truly believe we have a great opportunity for Indian film, Indian audiences, Indian entertainment, and for India with what we were doing with Brahmāstra. The loss of that opportunity, I would probably have felt like, shit, I had a chance to really do something and I messed up that chance at some level. That's probably what would have been in my mind, because I really think with, you know, with us having got the Brahmāstra storytelling in, what we can build with the Astraverse now can be something that's really incredible for India. And so yeah, that's my answer.
Phenomenal. I mean, what grit and determination. Karan, of course, when you make such an expensive film, you can't always be thinking that it will work. Finally, it's chance. Finally, it's the public which will give it the thumbs up or reject it, you know. When those thoughts used to cross your mind, okay, what if it doesn't work? We are putting in so much in terms of money, in terms of efforts, in terms of time, you know. How would you cross those barriers and, you know, get yourself going again?
It's absolutely impossible, because I think it's simple. It's an English saying, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And I think that everything that one ever does in the movies doesn't come with any guarantee. There's not a single movie that I have made where I have always felt that ye to blockbuster hone wali hai. I never feel that till eventually the universe decides and it happens. With Brahmāstra, I'll tell you the honest truth was like, let's get the film ready. That was the stress. The stress of the result was really at that point secondary. Ayan was so stressed delivering the film. You know, with the final VFX and the post, the sound, the music, all departments coming together finally. Really the stress was more about the delivery of the film than the result. And then once it was delivered, then all the stress and anxiety. But by then you get to find out immediately. So it was all about like, when will Brahmāstra make it to the cinemas? At one point it became like, does it even exist? You know, that because we've been talking about it for so long. And finally when it was out there, when the trailer was launched and, you know, Ayan did everything to make the release date. There was no delay when we announced the 9th of September. And, you know, and we combated COVID and lockdowns and everything, but still made it. And that to me was the biggest achievement. The fear of the box office was really secondary.
Ayan, very nice. Ayan, how did you keep the morale of your entire team high? Because this is unusual, you know, for a film to take. Of course, you were creating a universe, etc., etc. You must have told everything to everybody. But even COVID had to come right in between your film, you know. So those 2 years were unaccounted for. You wouldn't have even imagined that it's going to be delayed further for 2 years.
You know, sir, even what you just asked Karan, like how did he have, what did he feel, what did he go through in the making? I think there was a core team, because we knew what it is that we were creating and we were also seeing it happen. There was a core team, Karan, some of my assistants, couple of other producers who were, you know, running the show, Preetam Dada, Ranbir Alia, who were also, they could feel the potential over the years of what it is that we were making. You know, they had seen the climax and they could see that aisa kuch hai nahi Indian cinema mein. So I think it wasn't only me, it was the work that we were doing that kept a certain core team inspired to keep going on the film.
That core team was most important.
Oh sir, that core team, without that core team, you know, I call them in my mind the core Astraverse team. That team I would not have managed this. You never manage making a film like this without a few key pillars who, you know, contribute to help you making it. It's impossible. So there are like a few people who I feel have done and given as much as I have given to this film. They aren't in this room and you wouldn't know them, but like there are a few people who've really contributed a lot to get this film done.
But you're the captain of the ship, huh? When does part 2 begin now?
So we have a target. I think we have a release date target, to be honest, which is 3 years from now, somewhere around Diwali 2025.
Okay.
And for part 3, our target is 1 year after that, 2026. And I say Diwali 2025 and Christmas 2026. I say this with a disclaimer because we have said this on Brahmāstra also that it's coming, and then I think we've had about 6 release dates.
I just hope you
on
know
Brahmāstra
that you
1.
have given the release date for part 2 and 3 and very nicely blocked those dates and everything.
Diwali and Christmas.
Like, I think what he's saying in a very casual way is like, I'm a little shocked that you've given this information.
Karan, I've already said it in interviews.
Oh, you said it. Okay.
I've already said it.
Okay. I was getting a little stressed. I could feel my sweat beads coming out. And why is he giving all this information
But if I may ask, you said a 3-year gap for part 2 and only a 1-year gap for part 3.
Sir, I think our approach is that we'll now take on the filming of part 2 and part 3 jointly.
Oh.
And I think we should, and that would be a very good idea as well for audiences to get the film faster and enjoy it. So that's the vision. Again, now I think refining our production process and being able to move faster in this Astraverse building dream is very important to achieving that dream. We can't take another 7 years to make part 2. So how do we maintain that quality and do it in that time is what we're all, honestly, it's part of the reason that I thought when Brahmāstra 1 releases, I would be free for a bit, or that I'd be off on a holiday. When Ye Jawani Hai Diwani released, I felt so light, but with Brahmāstra 1 releasing, I haven't been able to feel light. I feel that urge to start working on part 2. How do I crack part 2 better? How do we improve it? How do we make it faster? So that's the vision. We have to put it into play and make all of this happen.
Wow. Karan, you're smiling.
I mean, it's so exhilarating and exciting. I'm smiling only because I think for us, and for me and Ayan actually, I go back to the moment, and I say this with a lot of love in my heart. When I remember in my bedroom of my earlier home, he narrated Wake Up, Sit to me. And to me, I always thought Ayan was bright, and he was narrating a really off-mainstream film. To the extent that Chintu ji, when we told him that it's a slice of life, he said bread ke slices hote hain, life ke nahi. Tum kya? So he said slice of life ka kya matlab hua? So he was like, I don't think he thought that Wake Up Sid would be anything. And I knew at that time when it was releasing that Ayan had a story to tell and had a vision as a filmmaker. And after that, then he made a completely different syntax film with Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. And today, he has made a completely different film with Brahmāstra. Like if you wrote Wake Up Sid, Ye Jawani Hai Diwani and Brahmāstra, and you didn't know details, you would never know that one filmmaker has made these films. I just feel like I'm just so glad. And I just feel like I'm so glad that I'm just a part of this boy's journey, because I believe that he has it in him to be a defining filmmaker of our times. And
he's proven that. He's proven that.
And I just feel so proud. I just feel so proud. When I see my name on a film like this, of course there is a lot of satisfaction. But when I see directed by Ayan Mukerji, much more pride. Much more pride in my heart. Much more than it is even with my company name, because to me, I've been in the business 3 decades. I've been part of telling so many stories, but in each and every time, someone that I have helped bring into the business or give them a platform emerges victorious because of their groundbreaking storytelling or just their inherent talent. It makes me so happy. It makes me so joyous that I can be a bystander of Ayan Mukerji's vision and journey.
Wow. Let me also, you asked Karan a question. I also would like to share a little, 2-3 things about Karan that I feel maybe everybody knows, but like I think maybe they don't know as well. So there's 3 things, You also mentioned how emotional Karan is as a person. So I feel that, when he was talking about how nervous he was, or well, like how different Brahmāstra was from another film when it released, etc. I feel that emotion that Karan feels on this film beyond the numbers and the achievement, also just for me on this film. So I feel it, like I feel that very strongly because he's very guided by emotion. The second thing about Karan is that beyond his own achievements and everything that he's doing and etc., he's actually a true film buff. And when he sees a piece of work that's going to become a part of pop culture or make a mark or a film that he believes is really good, Karan actually gets really excited. Like that really thrills him. I think it actually thrills him, even though he's so successful and so wealthy and so this and so that, it actually thrills him the most. It gives him the greatest kick.
Gives him a kick. Yes.
Gives him a very, very big kick. And I've always noticed it. It's why, like, even when he sees a film like Bahubali succeed or something, he's excited, you know. And the third thing, you know, you asked Karan earlier, and I wanted to jump in then, where you said, how come you were not worried as a producer? And Karan was answering that question, and I was listening to his answer. And I know there's a logical part of his mind that's breaking stuff down. But I've always felt about Karan that the magic of Karan Johar is that he is just magically intuitive and instinctive. Magically. So there are certain projects, Karan works with all the directors who work with him in a completely different manner. You know, there are certain projects, however high the stakes, that he just won't feel worried about. And then there's some small film that he might feel very worried about. And in fact, I think he just lives and works a lot on instinct. He might talk about it in the most articulate way because he's so articulate as a person. But his instinct is actually very, very strong. And I think that's really what, even when he was producing Brahmāstra, somewhere I think instinctively he felt ki kuch acha hoga is film ke saath. You know, we'll get there. I don't know how we'll get there, but we'll get there. And even when we now work, now, like supposing I have a poster or we have a song, Karan's first instinct I always hold a lot of value on. Not his fourth instinct. When you just show him something,
immediate response.
His immediate response. I'm always like, Karan ko pehle kaise laga? You know, and that's because he's such an instinctive, intuitive person.
I'm sure, and that's how he has his finger on the pulse of the people, and that is how he succeeds. One final question before I allow the gathering to ask you questions. I'm sure they have plenty of them. Was it difficult finalizing the people who would be the teams who would be looking after the visual effects? And how did you all freeze upon those teams?
So actually, you know, you know this because you've been part of our whole, you know everything about our journey. Namit Malhotra, who's also one of the producers on Brahmāstra,
yes,
and owns and runs Double Negative and Prime Focus. You know, we've had our challenges as well internally, putting this vision together. For him to bring it in the cost that we had, this, that, lots of challenges. But he's definitely been one of the pillars in helping us achieve this, this kind of visual quality in the film. And there was a brief moment at the beginning where we went and assessed who that visual effects partner should have been for us. But to say it plainly, Namit was really a front runner in that game with everything that he had achieved internationally. And I think it was very, how do you say, it was the right thing that happened for the project, a very important thing that happened for the project, that he came in directly into the destiny of Brahmāstra. So he's definitely someone who's helped us achieve what we achieved with the film.
VFX Astra.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. You all both have been wonderful guests answered. I'm sure you all have plenty of questions because most of the people here have seen Brahmāstra. So the house is open now. Sure. Just introduce yourself and then ask the question.
Yeah, myself Sumit from Arena Animation. A lot of our students have worked on this movie and some of them are here who want to work on part 2 and part 3. So guys, are you ready? Okay, now the question is, India, specifically Double Negative and Prime Focus, has been working since the last decade for a lot of international movies. And you see Marvel, you see Avengers, you see Fast and the Furious, you name the movie, it's there. But for a movie like Brahmāstra, why did it take so much of time? Due to the budget constraint or the story, or due to, because technical experience is already there, we have proved it time and again. But what made it so lengthy process so that the part 2 and part 3 also would be taking a little more time? If you can please elaborate. Thank you.
No, so what you said, you actually had your answer in your question. Sumit, right? Yeah. It's the catch-22 of the budget versus the quality. You know, what they are achieving in Fast and Furious, if you hear their visual effects budget, it would probably exceed the overall budget of a film like Brahmāstra. So that allows them to move at a very quick speed. And when we started with this venture, we wanted to figure out how to get that high quality, and we did extend our budget, but we couldn't extend it to what an Avengers or a Fast and Furious extends their budget to. So that catch required internally for Namit to be able to give us his teams when they got a little bit of a break from working on a very big Hollywood film. Right? He had to manipulate his resources to allow this to happen. So that's really the play and the catch-22. And to be honest, it is still something that I think we've gotten better at playing that game, but it's still a challenge that we will have to face even as we take on part 2 and part 3. And we want to bring in more refined visual effects and more interesting things in the visual effects of those films. बहुत challenging है ये VFX का game India में.
Hello, and my name is Amit Dev. I was the first general manager of Walt Disney in India in '94. Oh. Very, very old time.
Oh, hello, sir.
And Walt Disney has to leave India because IPR was not withheld at that time. So they again came back after 8 years when the IPR India signed the protocol. Right. But my question is different. I had seen Namit from very beginning with the old ambassador car from Calcutta, his father, and hiring cameras. My question is that from now till 3 years or till 4.5 years, there would be many new application software and creative technologies that would arrive. Today Namit is doing things which he has not done at the time of, say, the earlier films. Even for his Oscar-winning film, he has used many prototypes which are not yet come into the commercial market. So that gives them the strength. So how would you like that kind of technology development to be brought between you and Karan and your team for Prime Focus and Double Negative to rise up further and using your film as probably an Oscar competition subject?
Sir, I'm very, very passionate now in exploring and growing in this technology space of visual effects. So definitely you're right. Even as we were making part 1, I already know that what we've achieved in part 1, proud as I am of it for India, because I know how much work it took and I see the quality on screen. At the same time, I was always walking into rooms where I could see, shit, I can do so much more. And I could see, foreign filmmakers and the big Hollywood studios being able to do much more than me. Every time I see a Marvel film now, I see shots and I understand how those shots have gotten created. And I know that we have not yet been able to get there. For budget, technology. So, sir, I'm in this zone. I'm going to keep trying to do my best to raise the level of technology and VFX. Hopefully one day, you'll feel that we are completely step in step with anything happening in the West.
Hello. Wow. Hello. First, I want to congratulate for Brahmāstra's success. I'm KP Misra, a regional filmmaker. I just want to know as a filmmaker, how you motivate yourself despite having so much ups and downs throughout these years. And have you compromised any of your creativity ideas? What you planned? Have you compromised any of your creativity ideas throughout this year in process?
How do I motivate myself is a big question to answer. I mean, I think it's a very, like a very basic human question, because whatever we all do in our lives, I mean, I guess we get up every day and we try and do our best. And I really don't have a great answer for that other than I'm just, working hard and constantly trying to grow as a human being. And whatever I learn as a human being, I'm trying to bring it into my work. And I think I've become very comfortable now, even more now than I was earlier, in sacrificing a lot of my life for my work. So I'm willing to pay the price to just do my best at work in my life. And the second part of your question was, are there compromises? Definitely. I think there is no life without compromise, no relationship without compromise. Even on Brahmāstra, I cannot tell you, there are so many things when I hear some feedback also that my mind wants to say, Arey, but I had already thought of this, but then I couldn't do it this way. Or, this is what we hoped to do and then we were not able to do. I'll tell you one interesting thing. In RRR, you know, the interval sequence where a lot of all the animals jump out, which was an incredible sequence. Now that sequence is done by Namit's company as well. And a few years ago, I had this incredible sequence with a bear in Brahmāstra 1. And even now when I meet Namit, at that point of time, because of budget constraints, we had to cut the bear out of part 1, and it was a great sequence. And then on RRR, a few years later, they managed to put in a sequence with a lot of animals. Even now when I meet Namit, I'm like, you made me compromise, you made me take out the bear. The second half would have been better if the bear was in it. So you of course compromise, and you still try and do your best.
You bear it and grin.
And I think in filmmaking, and any of the younger filmmakers or people in the process of developing and creating, we don't ever call it a compromise. We call it a creative adjustment. And it just makes it feel better.
And as I said, you grin and bear it. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, my name is Abhijit Murudkar and I'm from Arena Animation, Dadar. My question is like, you have many artists who wanted to be a good concept artist. So how do you select a concept artist for these projects? And what is the process?
I'm desperate for concept artists. Literally before you go, come up and speak to me, and all your people, I will connect you with people in our office. When we started making Brahmāstra, I also didn't know, because I had not made a film like this before. One of the first things I learned is that we have to start with concept art, the visual script, because that's where everything takes root from, you know. The visual effects, everything starts with concept art. I need to find concept artists. In fact, we looked a lot, and we were looking the way that, like, you know, like a startup company would look. We would go online and write, who are the concept artists in India? Even for a company like Namit's in India, they struggle with finding good concept artists. So we are definitely on the lookout. And to build this big Astraverse idea and part 2 and part 3, we need a big group of concept artists to come in and work with us. So give me your number and I'll connect you, and give us all your friends' numbers as well.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Hello, I'm a filmmaking student, and first of all, congratulations to both of you on your success of your film, and I hope the second film also reaches even more heights. My question to you is, as you have pitched your film to multiple studios, even like Disney, and even to him also, so the initial part of your script which you had in your mind, it must have changed multiple times, and you have incorporated a very crucial element of this country, that is mythology, which can't be factually wrong, or like when you incorporate something, it can be interpreted wrong way. How cautious were you while writing those elements in your script, that it can be interpreted wrong way? How can it create an impact that can be a bit problematic for you later part of the time?
No, I hear you. Let's call it like Indian history, basically. I'll answer the... Okay. I'll answer the second part of your question about the touch of Indian history. So, I think that's one of the magic ingredients in Brahmāstra. In the title, this Indian spirituality history, I think it's what has also attracted a lot of people in, along with the visual spectacle, you know, so I think it's a very important ingredient. And I've thought about it myself. I realized that early on, that, you know, if the bedrock of this fantasy needs to come from Indian history. I did not approach it in a very scholarly fashion. I approached it in a very emotional fashion in part 1. In fact, as I move on to part 2 and part 3, we might get a little more academic on, you know, on astras and reading a lot more about like Indian mythology. But on part 1, I have to be honest, I approached it in a very emotional manner. What was my connection with my faith, with God, stuff that was in me that I had forgotten, what were the kind of shlokas I had heard, what was my understanding of Hindu philosophy, and I just expressed it. And I went with the idea that if I do this in a pure way, with a pure heart, that somehow it will go through very naturally and people will not have any issues with it. And I think that's kind of what happened as we put the film out. We didn't really have any issues with anybody, you know, pointing out things that they were uncomfortable with. I think we had one issue with like Ranbir clicking the ghanti in our trailer and, you know, he was wearing shoes. But other than that, it went through really nicely. So I think that instinct of mine worked.
किसी की भावनाओं को ठेस नहीं पहुंचा. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of bhavnas around in India.
So, good evening, everyone. So my question to you, sir, is that in order to commit yourself into making a film like Brahmāstra and, you know, creating the entire Astaverse, it's very important, like you said, to have, you know, the same long-term association with the same cast and crew. So how do you plan on, you know, retaining the same cast and crew for your further movies? Because like we have seen in the different universes, like with the Marvel universe, we have seen that it has worked for them, that they've hired the same director, the same cast over and over again. Like the Iron Man did not change from movie 1 to movie 3. So, but it did not, like DC did not do something similar. So it did not quite work out for them. So how do you plan on retaining the same star cast in the crew?
No, I'll answer your question partly because what's your name?
Akash.
Akash. Yeah. So my vision definitely is that as we move forward in this journey, we bring in more cast members into this world. But I think with what Ranbir and Alia and certain other people, Mauni Roy, Mr. Bachchan, what everybody did for us on part 1 is that they paid the biggest price, the blood price to help us get this whole thing going. Basically, you know, I don't expect us to take that long to make any other project after this. So on the Brahmāstra trilogy, of course, we continue with this cast and with Ranbir and Alia. But I'm hoping that as we venture out to work with anybody else now, it won't be that as challenging as it was for the actors on part 1 because they won't have to commit that much of their time to get it done.
There was this, yeah. Yes, lovely lady.
Hello,
Please
sir.
allow her. She's been wanting to ask a question.
Hi, good evening. My name is Nandini. Firstly, congratulations. I saw the film, loved it. And just wanted to understand, like both of you being the creative masterminds that you guys are, I mean, in the process of making the film, did you find any creative disagreement between the two of you? Which...
To be honest, not at all, because this was completely born within Ayan. And every bit of the film, every element, every part of it, every aspect of Brahmāstra was created within his and from his imagination and his visualization. So there was no way I could disagree, because how do you disagree with somebody's vision to this extent? I mean, you can give your input and you can, like, there were sequences when we saw, it was never a disagreement, it was feedback.
There was stuff Karan didn't like also. You know, we have this big Kali Puja sequence in the film now where Ranbir there was another sequence there. And the second time you saw it, you were very harsh. You really, I don't know what I'm allowed to say, that you really bitched about it. Am I allowed to use that word?
I didn't say bitch, I said the scene was terrible.
Yeah.
And I said, I think you need to reshoot it. And there was actually, and we can say it now, but Kesaria was shot in another way. Kesaria, and already we got some flack for, like, he was on his way to save, you know, he was the artist, but they sang a song before that. But it was Kesaria, so hopefully it was
Which, by the way, we plan to release just for fun.
Yeah, we are. But there was actually Kesaria shot with Ranbir dancing, like, quite feverishly. And when we saw the song, I was like, Ayan, what the hell is going on? Like, why are they dancing? Like, he was literally doing a dance on Kesaria. Was a different track. Same tune, melody, but treated differently. So then Ayan himself realized that it had to be treated as a love song. So we reshot Kesaria and the scene prior to that, which now he made into the Kali Puja scene, which was before that in Isha's house. And that's why people talk about where did Isha come from, what is Isha's roots, but it was all there in that scene. But we had to compromise on her backstory for the pace of the film.
Creatively adjust.
Creative adjustment, yes.
Oh, we're very happy with the way it came out finally. Thank you.
How sweet, thank you.
Last question. One last question.
Sir, to your right. So Karan and Ayan, both of you, you just said that you like your critics, maybe trawlers. So how much you owe the success of the movie to the boycotters and the trollers?
How much? To the trollers?
Yeah.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Faceless, nameless people, dear sir, don't deserve any acknowledgement, and they certainly haven't contributed to the success of Brahmāstra. In fact, if at all, it was our film was an answer to all their negativity with just the light that Brahmāstra had.
I'm a reviewer myself, let me tell you, I'm a reviewer, not a troll, I'm a reviewer. I don't think any reviewer in the world has the power to change public opinion. It is you who make a film a hit or a flop. No reviewer, no trade analyst, no critic can change the public opinion. You read reviews and you forget them. If you agree with that, you say, हाँ उसने ये बोला था, उसने ये लिखा था. But perish the thought that we can change how people think. What is important is the word of mouth after the release.
And full respect, and on a last note, full respect from all of us as filmmakers to opinion. I mean, and it's come in the form of reviewers and genuine audience feedback, and as we say, saranko par. We'll take everything, because once you make a creative product, it is going to be open to all kinds of interpretation and opinion. And we are absolutely, completely fine and actually accepting of everything. But it's trollers and negativity that haven't even perhaps seen the film. They just started abusing the film for no reason. अरे but आपने picture देखी है, आपको कुछ पता है picture के बारे में, आपको कुछ नहीं पता, बस आपको बस बोला गया है कि आप जाके, like you know, like somebody, one group has been formed and they just want to troll it for fun sometimes, you know, it's like.
And what is amazing is, suddenly, I never knew I was in such a glamorous profession or such a paying profession. Suddenly everybody has become a trade analyst. Suddenly everybody talks figures. You know, अरे ये तो loss करेगी तो. Ask them what is gross, what is net collection. Ask them what is the cost and what is the revenue. Ask them how much of the revenue comes to the distributor. I will leave this industry if they can answer those simple questions.
No, and that is absolutely true. And but Ayan and me, I think he gets that a little bit from me also. Is that we are academically obsessed with box office. You know, it's something that has been. I remember reading your magazine as a child. Like, not that I'm aging you, but because I'm also 50.
Because I was also a child.
Yeah,
we read it together.
In case you thought, but I'm sure when it was a family magazine. I remember Saturday sham ko aati thi, and my father used to bring it and tease me, and he's saying, "I'm not giving it to you." And I was like, I wanted Anikas to read the percentage of opening and all. Like I used to read it more than my own report cards.
Thank you. You all have been a lovely audience, and thank you, Karan. Thank you, Ayan. Thank you so much.
And thank you on behalf of everyone at FICCI and Leena and the entire team. We are very, very grateful for having gotten this opportunity. See you at the movies. Thank you.
Wishing all the parts of Brahmāstra bountiful of successes, and a group picture for our memory's sake. If you can, three of you can come together and step ahead. Yes. Looking forward to the remaining parts of Brahmāstra, and on that note, we close FICCI Frames Fast Track 2022. Goodbye, everybody. This is Manasi taking your leave. Have a lovely time ahead.